as a Marine and was sent to the Vietnam War. He was an officer because he was a little older and went to college already. And while he was there, he was injured. He was shot. He was shot in the back of the hip, and so it ripped off his butt and his hamstring muscle. And he was surgically put back together and then told at 24, 25, you're fixed. Go back out there and serve your country, Marine. And he wanted to do that, but his body said no. And it said no in the way of giving him a signal of, for those of you who have ever had nerve pain, giving him sciatic nerve pain, the whole length of his hip all the way down to his foot. And it ended up progressing to the point where it was irregardless of position, sitting, standing, lying down, sleeping, there was no position of comfort. So as a good Marine, he followed in the instructions from the doctors. Doctor says, do these things. I do these things, report back in X amount of time. He would do so. And the report would always be, well, Pete, how are you doing? And he's like, I am no better. What else is there? And so he would try something else. And it eventually got to the point where the doctors really didn't know what to do. And they basically told him, well, I have someone you can see. It's the psychologist on the base because all your pain is in your head. And that really didn't jive with him. His pain was very real and very much with him. So he went on a journey of, taking his degree from college, which was political science, and decided to study the body. And this is why one of the major things that attracted me to Egoscue is that the idea is very simple. If you open any anatomy book, you'll see the basic standing posture. We call that basic standing posture Freddy function. And there's similarity between almost any anatomy book where it has relatively level shoulders and level hips and straightness of limbs and straightness from ear all the way down to your ankle. And, Pete figured, wow, this is a really smart person that wrote this book. This must be what our human blueprint is. And so he went about there of finding a way to get his body to return to the blueprint. And that's what we do with our clients every day. We see every symptom from sciatic pain to bunions to arthritis to degenerative conditions to people who have already had surgery of some sort of, maybe it's a joint replacement or a discectomy or something along the line, but they're still struggling with either physically how they feel, but almost all of them are struggling with how they move or are not able to move at this point. And our philosophy with each person is very similar in that we care about you as the person, and your story is unique, and you know more about yourself than we ever will. We take what we know about the blueprint of the body and how things are supposed to function and marry the two into a plan that is a non-symptom driven modality, meaning I don't just get the 10 people with knee pain on the inside of their right knee and they don't all do the same things, because the reason why the pain is there is different for each person. So it's uncovering the reason, finding that, as using, if we can find the why, it creates a more compelling answer for that individual. And ultimately, kind of like what you're doing, where yes, we're helping people through this initial period of pain, physical pain in this case, but ultimately teaching them a skill they can use till they're 125. That my goal is.
Thank you for adjusting. I love it.
My goal is to teach you something cool, make sure you understand how to use it for your life, and kick you out. We want you doing this stuff as a lifestyle because it helps you do what you care about doing. I really am passionate about playing golf or playing pickleball or going on hikes or just being active with my grandkids. Right? That's what makes me light up inside. And no one's passionate about doing therapy. But if it helps you get there, it becomes an important part of life. And that's, I have a few more years before I am able to retire, but it's a large population of people that I see as well too, of people who have gone through this thing. I've worked my butt off. I'm ready to do this thing, but my body's not letting me do it right now.
Yeah.
And it's not a getting older thing. My favorite thing to people come with, I got this knee. It's, I'm 63. It's just a knee. I'm like, well, how's the other knee feel? No, it's fine. Well, isn't that knee also 63? So if there's an age thing, why is one knee aging faster than the other?
Right.
And it's not because of your age, it's because of how you're using it. So let's give it an opportunity to use it the same, and see what happens. So
yeah, no, I love that, finding your why. I think that's so important for many things in life, not only for Egoscue technique and when clients come to visit you, but also in my world, right? Healthy retirement, and what is the why? So I think that's a really good question that our audience can ask themselves is, what is that why? What's that driving factor that really will impact your life? And as you say, and I am constantly saying, it's not a one-time fix or quick fix. It's a lifestyle, right? It's a lifestyle. So if I'm hearing you correctly, and correct me if I'm not understanding, but really, if candidates come to you in your clinic, and you are the chief honcho over there, so they have to pass all by you, I'm sure, but it's really proven techniques that are used globally by incredible athletes that we all know, who need these functioning parts to just a variety swath of individuals. So there's a true methodology and meaning, and just so the audience can understand a little bit more, there's a process of assessment that you and your team provide, and really what's, as you described in that knee situation, well, that other knee is 63 too, right? So what's inefficient that is working, and it can be that we're dominating a side. It can mean that we had an injury and we're compensating. I mean, there's so many things that your team is looking for, which results in some body part that's not working, right?
right. Yeah, it's part of the beauty of the body, right? The body does a lot of these things, not because it's, oh, I'm broken, I'm dying. It's doing it because, somewhere in our brain, the saber-toothed tiger may still come and eat us. So we got to find a way to keep moving.
Right.
And our body's brilliant in finding a way to keep going. And if it has to sacrifice, well, in order to do that, I'm going to turn my foot out and lean to the side. And hey, I don't hurt anymore. I can walk. I'm walking kind of funny, but I can move around. I can do my thing. I can get from point A to point B. And as our world in general has become less dependent on movement, that we don't have to get up off our couch anymore in order to get really food. We can order from our phone, get it delivered. We got to walk to the door to get it.
Right. And
Movement's becoming
unfortunately,
less.
Yeah. And movement is quality of movement is so important for the function of the human body and the brain. And you talked about this, the link between what the brain signals and to the body, and vice versa. It does go the other way, from the body to the brain. So that's really interesting. So I know we talked about prior the 8 laws of Egoscue, and I was like, oh, hang on, I'm totally overwhelmed. Hang on a second. So from the point of view of narrowing this down, and so I think we agreed upon 3 that from the point of view of not only Egoscue, but also from the population base that we're serving today in this podcast, talking about balance, breathing, and stimulus. If you could sort of paint a broad brushstroke on what does that mean in the language of Egoscue, and how does that affect your clients in your day-to-day living, in your assessment? What does your team look for? Why is it important? What are the benefits? I mean, why do we care about this? Why do we care about balance? What's the importance of breathing? Other than I know it's pretty uncomfortable not to breathe, but holding your breath underwater, right? And then certainly stimulus, which we are bombarded by. And herein, I think the body and the brain connection could be an interesting conversation. So
yeah, well, I think starting with balance is probably the easiest way to start. is first and foremost, when people come and start their process with us, balance is one of the first things we assess. And
Yeah.
not only is it balance in the sense of some people thinking about like, oh, can I balance on one foot? Can I lift one leg up and can I balance that way? But I'm even talking about like visual and structural balance. You think of a house, right? There's a blueprint and a frame for a house. Oh my gosh, there is a leak on the second floor coming in. There's water coming in the side of that bedroom. Why is that happening? Well, it could be, yeah, the roof is faulty, but it also could be the foundation has a little imbalance to it. And so we take that same approach with our clients, is that we're checking the balance. And by balance, I mean, is it looks similar? Does it function similar of 8 main targets: ankles, knees, hips, shoulders. We care about your spine because a lot of people we come in contact with do have some sort of spine symptom, or the spine moves differently, but it's spine, it tends to be dictated by the big shoulders and big hips in terms of what it's capable of or not capable of doing. And we use balance as that starting point. I say the word balance about 400 times a day, because all we're really trying to do as we implement exercise is return balance or symmetry to a joint. So something very simple that your watchers or listeners can do at home is, well, how do you know if you're off balance? Well, you can do one of two things. You could either lie on the floor and just let your arms and legs go out straight, and just keep in mind those contact points or those targets that I talked about: the ankles, the knees, the hips, the shoulders, and just see how they feel against the floor. Are they even? Are they symmetrical in weight? If it's hard to feel against the floor, a little more obvious way to pick it out is to stand against the wall and do it, and see how easy or hard it is to very comfortably get back against the wall without much strain. And if you're straining somewhere, pay attention to that strain, because that's a way to figure out, well, I know I may have this knee symptom, but why is it hard to get my shoulders against the wall?
Yeah.
I wonder if there's a connection between the inability to get my shoulders back and why I'm having this knee pain. And we would tend to say maybe, and probably most likely there is. And I wonder what would happen if we were to change that, make it easier for your shoulders to get back there. What would happen to the symptom of your knee? Right? So balance, first and foremost, is a crucial component of where we talk. And typically balance issues arise either because of, we brought up the term compensation before. And that compensation is a way our body just navigates around. It tries to find a way. And sometimes it's compensation for, well, yeah, when I was 8 years old, I broke my ankle. Or not, I had this injury. I played football and I hurt this, or I had my weird thing from tennis a billion years ago, or whatever. Your body has found a way to move, and it may be avoiding it for some reason, but it does create balance issues that ultimately you need to try to get under control as much as possible. Right, so that's balance, and balance is a huge part of our assessment. You brought up our process. We're looking at, visibly when people come in, we take pictures of them in 4 views: a front, a back, a left, and a right. We use our proprietary software to analyze the body, find these key points, and then use that to start the process of a framework of correction, or more importantly, rebalancing the function and the look of the body. It's not about achieving this perfect posture all the time. It's just really about giving your body the ability to move. Like both shoulders should do the same thing. Both knees should have that ability to do it. The look of it, the actual look of posture, is just the way in. It's not the be all end all of I must always stand like this, because that's really hard to do. Our world isn't conducive for it. So, but posture is a way to identify, I know you got this knee pain, but why is that one hip higher than the other? Why is that shoulder doing that thing?
Yeah, I love that, because I think so many of us, and I'm going to throw myself in the pot as well, is we're very subconscious about what we do and how, I always put my purse over my right shoulder. I carry heavy bags. I'm right-handed, so I don't always use my left hand. I mean, I can go up and down the skeletal system and tell you my ear, I hold the phone, or, there's all sorts of things. It was interesting. Yesterday, I went to a wonderful Tai Chi class. And it was extraordinary. And as in teenagers, through to these amazing individuals who are learning to place their balance with their feet, right? Because it's very intricate movement,
Yeah.
but had serious standing issues, in my opinion. We didn't have you there, Greg, but next time maybe we will, because there was, if you will, a rounding of the spine from years of perhaps being over a desk or driving, or, there's all these things that we're really not aware of. And I think that I know I'm a dancer, so I'm uber thoughtful about my movement. But if you really diagnose me, I don't think I am. I don't have a clue what my body, you need that outside eye to observe that balance. And I love the fact that you use software to really analyze what the situation is. And there's many, I know that I think Equinox also has, and there's several other software companies that do the same similar thing, really to assess and inform the client that, yeah, look at this, there's a 20-degree difference, or, no clue, right? So, but that's the great starting point, because then we realize, oh, okay, we need to correct this going forward. And it's never too late to correct. That's the other thing that I want to share with the audience. So that, and balance is so important for the consequences of falls.
Sure.
And being able to catch yourself before you face plant, and being able to have that agility to move around. So that's I love that about balance. So let's talk about breathing. And gosh, if we don't breathe, you and I through the podcast, we won't be here. So
it'll be a very short call.
Very short podcast, right? So why is breathing so important beyond the fact that it's life-giving? What could you offer on that?
Right. And it's part of the system that, like, our body's going to breathe regardless of what we tell it to or not, for the most part.
Right.
Unless there's an outside force acted on us or something's going on. So our body has these ways to breathe, but we also have multiple ways we can breathe. And we have the major breathing muscle is your diaphragm, which sits kind of below the rib cage and connects to the spine, but if you think about it right now, and for people who are listening or watching, right, if you were just to close your eyes and think about taking a deep breath, how are you initiating your breath?
Yeah, great question.
Is it going up towards your ears? Is it pulling back? Is your belly sticking out? Those are all things to assess, because we have multiple ways to breathe. And not that, is there more efficient ways of breathing? Yes, there are. There are more efficient ways of breathing.
Yes, there are. Yes.
And people who say, well, I collect all my stress in my upper shoulders and my neck area. And it's like, well, maybe you're just doing 5,000 shoulder shrugs a day because that's how you're getting your air in. And it's a little more shallow of a breath, and it's harder to energize yourself. And, all that stuff. Breath, like, besides it's life-giving, is also a very healing thing for ourselves too. So if we do have symptom, pain, physical symptom, but even just like, things like anxiety are huge for people who, to look at breathing as a way to get it back on track again. And your posture can also dictate the ability to breathe. If you're you mentioned before, if you're a little too rounded over in the upper back, one of the bigger things I see is if your body has a rotation to it. Most people that, when we see them for the first time, are off balance in an asymmetrical way. One shoulder's higher than the other. One shoulder's forward compared to the other. One foot points out more than the other. All that stuff has a big impact on your breathing, because now it has like a focal point in the middle of your spine where that breathing muscle connects, and also connects, ironically or not so ironically, where the breathing muscle connects on the back part of the spine, on your lower thoracic vertebrae. There's a really important muscle that connects on the front of it. It's called your psoas, or your primary hip flexor. And that picks your legs up when you walk and run, right? Or initiate movement in general. And there's such a tug of war between the two. And typically the hip flexor will drive and pull forward, and then that will change the position up or down the spine because of that pull. And it has a direct effect on the breathing, or the ability to breathe properly. We use a term when we talk about, when we're teaching people to breathe, we talk about east and west breathing as the
Mhm.
diaphragm moves. Again, it's a circular shaped muscle. So it's not just a north and south movement. It's a, you say east and west, or even like a 360-degree move of this area as you're trying to take a breath. It's hard to do unless you can kind of put yourself in certain positions where it's like, well, that's the only way I can breathe. I can't
Mm.
up into my neck as easily because we're limiting some certain factors. So that's kind of how we help people breathe. It's huge for, again, for people that were initially dealing with like, how do I help my body heal as fast as it can? Breathing is a way to get things to move. Also, if there are certain positions that your body, we ask your body to do and they're hard, as opposed to muscling through it, breathing is the way through. Because if your body can breathe in a position, it knows it's not going to die. So,
Yeah.
oh, I'm okay here. I can live here. I'm fine. Just take your time with it. Respect your body, respect what it's saying. But if your body can breathe, it's safe. It's safe in almost any position that we would ask you to get into. It's just where can you get to today? So.
No, I love that. I love that the breath work is moving past just releasing stress in the body. And you mentioned anxiety and many other, today, in today's world, we're so stressed out all the time. And so, what I've been trained to talk about is techniques to release stress in the moment, right? But what you're really saying is that you're bringing it down to even more fundamental. I'm not sure necessarily during the workday we could think about this, but that the breath work itself is really foundational to not only the health of the body, but supporting the body in terms of feeling safe because we're breathing correctly. And so I think that that's a really great lesson to learn this 360 breathing prior to the anxiety and the stress that you could probably drop into in an elevator, standing online, waiting for the bus, waiting for the subway, in the car driving, all these things that you can apply.
Very simple stuff. Even a fun strategy to help it, which may seem kind of odd at first. I was talking about the balance between the breathing muscle and the hip flexor, and now how it relates to breathing is that if you may have a hard time doing that kind of 360 or east-west breathing as we use, try standing pigeon-toed, like pretty good amount of pigeon toe with your feet, and keep your thighs relatively tight, and then breathe. And notice as taking a breath is now different now, and just standing with your feet pigeon-toed, because that asks for balance or a more symmetrical position or pull on the hip flexors, and see what that does for your ability to breathe. For most folks, almost always, it makes it not as needed to go up into your shoulders to take a breath. You can actually kind of distend your stomach, relax through there, and then really take a nice full breath easier. And it's easier on your system to breathe that way. It's not as stressful. One of the last things we'll talk about is the stimulus, right? And breathing helps us handle that stimulus better. For years and years and years, again, I've been doing this for 20 years. I talked to Pete Egoscue relatively frequently, and he would always ask me right around like towards the end or middle of flu season, which is coming up.
Yeah.
He'd call and ask me one question. He's like, "Hey, Greg, how are you feeling?" And not from a sense of like, "Oh, I have this ache in my shoulder." No, he's asking if I've been sick. If you had the flu at all this year? Did you do this? And I never would say, "Nope, I'm okay." He's like, "Did you get, anything?" No, I'm okay. He's like, "Okay, thanks. Talk to you later." And I was like, why is he asking this? And it was his way to check to make sure I was doing my menu, what we call our series of exercises, a menu. My menu. I was making sure I was doing my homework. Because his belief system is that the more sound, the more balanced your body is, you can handle the stimulus, even something like viral stimulus, and be able to handle it better. Or be able to have your body taken and be of less consequence. And like you mentioned earlier, we have so much stimulus from light and sound and food and all this stuff just bombarding us, that when that starts to become a problem, that like the stimulus of standing, the stimulus of sitting, that's a problem. That's a indicator number one that, whoa, my body's off.
Yeah,
My body
something's
needs,
off.
my body needs
Yeah.
some help in some form or fashion. Not that posture is the be all end all, but it's, again, it's a way in. It's a way to help us understand. And if we can make our system more resilient, it can take that stimulus and absorb it as no consequence. I can handle it. I can handle the stimulus of just standing at line in the grocery store. I can handle the stimulus of like staring at the computer all day long and the light is killing my eyes. It's okay. You can do it, right? You can do it. And if it's hard, that's the beauty of having something you can run to in your back pocket.
Yeah.
I know I'm not stuck. I'm not lost. I'm not, oh, I got to go run to someone to fix me. No, you have control to have all of these things be under control within your hands. All you got to do is utilize the techniques that we help teach people. And again, you can either come to see us, you can purchase an $18 book off Amazon called Pain Free.
Which is fabulous. I bought it for my husband and I use it too. So
it's a
yes, and it's
great starting point and reference for folks.
yes,
It's got a lot
it
of
is.
really awesome information in it. It helps a lot of folks, So there's many people who just pick up the book and run with it and they have a blast. But it is part of that, going back to your initial comment on like stimulus that our body is taking in. We initially thought of it as like, well, the stimulus of like, it hurts when I play tennis. It hurts when I bend over to pick something up. It hurts when I wash my face. And that was always it. But we're so bombarded with, like, again, the other forms of stimulus that the body's really taken a wear and tear. One extra comment I'll make on, sport in general and the stimulus of sport, dance and golf and running and biking and all that, working out in general. All that is good for you. There is no such thing as bad movement or bad exercise. Oh, golf is bad for you. No, golf is not the problem. The problem is the body going to the activity. So ultimately, it's your fault because you're bringing a faulty. We'll say fault. We won't say faulty as like it's never fixable, but the body in its current state can't handle that type of stimulus that certain exercise is going to put a demand for you to be able to do.
Yeah. And I think it's also about repetitive motion. I mean, I'm talking from a dancing point of view and other techniques, like it's a racket sport. It's that one side, if you will. Choreographer, they're using that one leg, etc. But it's also, I love what you talk about stimulus, the everyday things in life that we have in today's society, right? So we have to keep up with the times. And how to build our body so that we're continually using your techniques and building resilience so that if your car door hits you in the hip or somebody walks over your tootsies in Times Square or, whatever happens, you're able to move forward and without too much damage in terms of that you have those tools behind you to support you. So
right.
I love that.
Life happens, right? Life stuff happens,
Exactly.
right? You can walk out and get hit by a car right now. Like anything.
God forbid. Yeah.
God forbid, right? So, those are things that are somewhat out of our control. But like you said, if you have some tools in your toolkit, you can get on the road to recovery faster. And this doesn't take the place of like, hey, I think I broke my foot. I'll just do my exercises instead. This is not that. This is not a one-to-one replacement for stuff like that.
Right.
This is more along the lines of, listen, right? You have some, again, the people we tend to see are more chronic stuff. I would even love to have people, start doing this, noticing like, I don't really hurt. But I'm noticing, I have a hard time turning one way. Like if I go and play tennis, I have a hard time getting my backhand really easy with my forehand. I can't go. It's a little tighter. It feels stiffer. It doesn't hurt. Those are wonderful opportunities to get ahead of this thing before it turns into something.
Exactly. And so I think it's about asking those who are listening to, and my husband always told me this, and I, of course, always debate. But as the decades go by, he's always said, Nancy, you've got to listen to your body. And I'm finally, I think, doing that. And so Yeah, it's a tune in, right? What is your wisdom telling you? What's your intuition telling you? What's your restrictions, right? What is that telling you? And hiring the right people to put in place to so that you can live quality of life. Because if, for your example, you're a person who's playing tennis who can't rotate those shoulders and drive a hard backhand. I love tennis. It's like my favorite thing. Um, so that restricts them. So it's not enjoyable. I mean, they're losing joy. You're losing joy in your life because it's about community. Yes, it's about being a professional athlete and scoring and all that stuff, but it's about so much more in and around retirement in terms of community, getting outdoors, if it's an outdoor activity, or just simply enjoying the beauty of the stroke of tennis, right? And being that Flushing Meadows is going on right now. So who are you cheering for?
Yeah,
Yes.
my guy, yeah, my guy's not in anymore. I was a big Rafa.
Oh, who are you cheering for?
I don't know. I haven't really. I like
Hmm.
Alcaraz. I think he's really fun to watch. He's a very exciting
Yes, he is
player.
very
But
exciting.
Rafa
Yes.
was always my guy. I had a chance to work with Rafa maybe 10, 12 years ago,
Oh,
personally
wow.
for him this stuff. So he's a wonderful guy. He's got a great camp of people within, kind of helping him keep going. So I always pulled for him. He's a really, really wonderful person. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, most professional athletes, I mean, we always read in the media about sort of the standouts, but most professionals are pretty serious people and wonderful humans because of the pursuit of excellence in their
sure.
particular sport.
Yeah,
So
sure.
tell me as we kind of close out this and belief systems. In my world, belief systems are huge.
Mhm.
They're instilled generally when we are very, very young, under 5 years old, or there's some sort of traumatic event. But what are the belief systems of Egoscue, and why does that matter in terms of, and let's talk about, day-to-day living that people are living day to day, and how do we facilitate new belief systems so that we can live in a more progressive way, and we can self-direct that
Sure.
with guidance from people such as yourself.
Yeah. So if some of the things that may potentially be a non-starter for starting a Egoscue is that if you believe you can or cannot get well, you're probably right. Um, that belief system of being somewhat positive in your outlook is that, yeah, it may feel like I'm in a dark hole right now, but if you feel like there's never any way out, everything is happening to me, all this stuff, and it's hard for you to get out of your own way with that mindset and belief system, it may be a longer process and maybe even not one that's appropriate for you right now in terms of starting a Egoscue and trying to change something, but ultimately you have to be in control of. My job is to kind of be like a coach in a way, and that like I'm going to give you the tools, give you the ways to understand it, give you the ways to troubleshoot stuff going on. But ultimately, if you don't want to take the ball and run with it, we can't help you.
Yeah,
And you have
so
to be
it's
a willing participant in this.
yeah, and I think that's so important, and to hear that message, as in anything in life, take action if you really want it, and if you're unwilling for whatever reason, which is fine, it's not the right moment, like you said. You have to
Exactly.
come
It's
back to it. Yeah.
right. It's not a forever thing. It's just at this point, it's not an appropriate choice here because we'll be asking for too much or something that may seem impossible.
Hmm.
Um, I will say, going back to your kind of original question about kind of like a mindset, like
Mm.
there are maybe this is a few years ago now, way before this newest version of Pain Free that was written, Pete wrote a book called Pain Free Living.
Mm.
And it was more about this mindset and how you think about yourself or your reality or your situation or even just outside things coming at you will change your posture, which will ultimately change like your line of
Mm.
thinking. So there were three basic archetypes. Right? There was the fact finder. And the fact finder is just the facts, ma'am. They want that, and they tend to present with kind of the little bit of crossed arm because they're protecting themselves a little bit, slightly rounded forward shoulders, and like a forward tilt of the pelvis, so usually like a bigger arch in the back, right? Very strong, very tight.
Prove it to me. Yes.
Prove it to me, right? And
Yes.
if your facts don't align with their facts, you're in trouble.
Right.
The other archetype is called the skeptic, and most people in their line of thinking are skeptic, and skeptics tend to present posturally with an asymmetrical body position.
Oh.
I'll give you some, but I'm keeping some for myself. I'll hear you a little bit, but I don't know if I want to hear the whole thing. Stuff like that. Even just someone standing, if you're kind of standing and you close your eyes and march in place, and you notice one foot slightly turned out more than the other, you may have that type of what we used to call it condition 2, but more of that that skeptic mindset to your thinking. And then the last one is more like we call a pessimist. I'll say like the Eeyore, like the woe is me, the very rounded curve, the loss of curvature of the back, the kind of tucked under pelvis. We'll affectionately say they have suffering from a case of NBD, which is no butt disease. So very, very affectionately say that. But and it's one of those things that we've seen over time, that as people return structural balance to their body, they are more accepting and willing, or they're not that they completely change and like, I'm not a skeptic anymore, but you become more receptive of hearing things.
More open. Yeah.
More open. And you're able to, wow, I can have this conversation with someone in life now, or I can go into a business deal and not be so completely closed off. And that may be more successful for me that way, if I can be more open or more well-rounded in my thinking, because my body's presenting that way.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So those are a couple of things. Pete did a radio show for about 10 years where he conducted this experiment, and over a 10-year period, he got so good at, and he would never have to, because we rely a lot on our visual assessment of people, but he got to the point where he didn't have to see people based on their language, based on how the cadence of their voice and how they were speaking. He was able to identify many different things about what they looked like without even ever having to see them.
Wow, that's an extraordinary listener. He's feeling it. Yeah. Amazing.
He's very gifted that way in his ability to take in all sorts of types of information, not visual one, but auditory, kinesthetic learning. He's very sharp in all those things. People tell you, he's like, this is my gift. I'm very great at this. He's like, to me, it just comes natural. He's been doing this for 50 years. So it's like,
well, he lives and breathes it, right? So that's an extraordinary human. Yeah.
Yeah. This is his truth. As he said, this is my truth.
Yes.
This is what I know. It's worked for me. I've seen it work for thousands of people over X amount of time. So it's like, I've seen it so much to be true that anything else doesn't seem to quite. Well, of course, this is going to matter in some way or shape or form. Of course, it's going to have an impact. Of course, your physical body is going to have an impact on your emotional body. Of course it is. It's all one unit. It's all together. You can't.
It's all connected. Yeah. Yeah. The longer you're in this game, either with on Greg's side or my side, it's connection. It's all connected.
Connection is key. I will say one of the biggest things that, for going back, you mentioned something before about, still along the lines of like finding joy and like what are you doing this for, is that and maybe to ask yourself is, if you are dealing with a physical symptom, and if you're looking for help, one of the questions we ask, and Pete's a master at this, is the question of, so what? Well, I have this back pain. So what? I have a herniated disc at L4. So what? So if I wave my magic wand and it all goes away today, how is your life different? So you can do what? So what can happen? So you can get back to what? That's your compelling future, right? That's your stuff you care about doing. So always think about the so what, rather than like, I'm in this pain right now. It stinks. It hurts. It doesn't feel good. I get it. But where what's this getting in the way of?
Yeah. And what can it teach you? I think to add to that is
Good point.
what can it teach you and what can you learn from this experience?
Great point.
And then imagine the future, envision the future in terms of life is just so expansive in and around retirement. And that's really what I love about my work and impact, and you as well, Greg. It must be amazing impact on individuals who come to your clinic, and you have a team of individuals that work with you as well.
Yes.
And clearly you were destined to lead this team and find Egoscue in your life and work with a very interesting clientele, to be sure. So
it's fun. I mean, for the most part, most people really do want to get well and they want to participate, and ultimately we have fun. Like the act of coming in, seeing someone and being in pain is not fun.
no.
Like, I got to do my therapy. No, we try to make the experience fun and one that you can learn. And ultimately, like, I got the bull by the horns. I'm in control here. And as Pete Egoscue likes to remind me, control is an illusion. So you don't need to have control, but if you have balance, you can be able to find comfort that I'm balanced. I'm in my situation. I know stuff may happen, but it's okay.
Yeah.
I know who I am. I know what I'm about, and I have the structure. We're going to hopefully provide a physical structure to handle it.
Yeah, that's really beautiful to navigate forward, right? To navigate forward. So that's beautiful. Yeah. Well, I thank you so much for all the juicy tidbits that you have provided to us, and so gracious with your time. How can we find you? Where do we contact you? How do we sign up for your programs? And instruct me there, please.
Sure. So the website is simple. It's just egoscue.com, www.egoscue.com. I would suggest people, if you're interested in learning it, go through it, and kind of the website takes you on a journey. I really want help with pain relief. I want help with improving my movement. And then we have a category of I want to optimize my exercise or my sport or my life in general, because we get a lot of people who are into the trendy term of biohacking themselves. So that you see that, but we tend to see most people who have, pain limitations or physical movement limitations and then kind of go through the journey, see and the journey will help you kind of figure out if we're a good partner together.
Yes.
In terms of okay, this is a good match. And if you think so, here are your next steps. You mentioned my office that I'm currently sitting in right now is in Purchase, New York, in Westchester County, New York, just over the border from Fairfield County in Greenwich, Connecticut. And I do have a second office in Midtown Manhattan. So we have a bigger area that we encompass, but we see people globally. Almost exactly half of my client base I never meet in person, because we're assessing movement and posture visually. If we can see you and watch you move, we can provide help to you. So I have clients from New Zealand all the way to Chile and everywhere in between.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's very interesting. Okay.
But we're able to provide help to in their journey. All right. So that's the best way to contact us. If you were to look for us specifically, or if you want to reach out to me specifically, our website for the clinic is westchester@egoscue.com. Sorry, the email, not the website, but the email is westchester@egoscue.com. And we offer, for folks who are just curious, we offer free, 20-minute, 30-minute consultations, which is an opportunity to come try us on. See if we're a fit. Talk to a therapist, meet one-on-one with myself or someone from my team. We do a posture evaluation as part of the free consultation. And it's just an opportunity to say, okay, here's what we see that may be contributing to what you're feeling, and trying to piece this together to see if it's a logical fit. Most times it is. But it's a free opportunity for people to try us on. And then we mentioned before the book, if you go to the other website is painfree.com. And that's a place where you can purchase any one of Pete's 6 books.
Wow.
that he has out there. Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you, Greg, so much for joining us today. And I'm so grateful to you and your team for allowing you to have a little bit of time. And your
Yeah,
team
it's
is
great.
busy working in the background, I'm sure.
That's
And
fun.
thank you so much for all your information. And again, we'll provide all your contact information in the show notes. And for anyone that's interested in working with Greg and his team, all that information will be there. So again, thank you and much success in your leadership of Egoscue Westchester. So thank you so much, Greg, for your
Thank
time.
you. It was an honor and a
Appreciate it.
privilege. Thank you, Nancy. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.